John wiped the sweat from his brow as he looked over the wide, sun-baked plains of his ranch. The sky was a harsh orange, the twin suns of the desert planet beating down with relentless heat. His herd of alien-adapted livestock grazed slowly, their hooves kicking up clouds of red dust. The ranch was all he had, and yet it was never enough. Ever since his wife had disappeared years ago, he had been raising his daughter, Lila, alone. She was only 8, small but sharp with eyes that mirrored his own determination. "Papa," Lila's voice called from the house. "I want a mother." John froze mid-step. He knew this question would come again today. She asked it often, her small face full of longing. He sighed, rubbing his tired hands together. "I know, Lila," he said softly. "I know. And I promise I will do everything I can to make that happen." Lila nodded, her young mind accepting his words as truth for the moment. But he knew she needed more than promises. She needed care, guidance, and someone to teach her things he could not. Later that day, John rode to the nearest outpost, a strange mix of human and alien traders, crowded under a dome of thick glass. He needed supplies, but he also needed to see the world outside the ranch. As he walked through the bustling market, his eyes fell upon a group of 3 women sitting near a metal fence, their clothes worn and their faces tired. Their skin had the reddish hue of their people, their eyes sharp and cautious. He noticed how they watched everyone around them, careful not to make a mistake. Something stirred inside him. He recognized the same look in them that he saw in himself when the world was cruel. They were survivors, and yet they were trapped. Trapped by circumstances, by cruel traders who saw them as objects to be bought or sold. John approached cautiously. "Hello," he said, his voice calm. The women did not respond at first. One of them, who had short dark hair and piercing amber eyes, finally looked at him. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice low and cautious. "My name is John," he said. I want to help. I have a daughter who needs a family, and I think maybe we can help each other." The woman's eyes narrowed. "Help? What do you want?" "I want to give you freedom," John said. "I can pay the traders to release you, not as slaves, not as servants, but as free people, and in return, maybe you can help me raise my daughter and live here safe on my ranch." The 3 women exchanged glances. One of them, taller than the rest with hair that shimmered like copper, whispered something to the others. They were silent for a long moment. The trader approached, a sly smile on his face. "Ah, I see you've noticed my girls," he said. "They're for sale. 6 units each." A bargain. John's heart sank. 6 units? That was all it would take to buy their freedom. 6 units of his hard-earned credits. He counted the small stack in his hand. It was barely enough. He could not let this opportunity pass. "Take them," he said firmly. "I'll give you 6 units each. They are free." The trader's eyes widened. "Free? You mean you're buying them to release them? Are you mad?" "I'm not mad," John said. "I'm human, and I know what it is to need help. These women need freedom. My daughter needs mothers. This is the best use of my credits." The transaction was quick but tense. John handed over the 6 units for each woman, and the trader reluctantly waved them away. For the first time in a long while, the 3 women were free. The women looked at John, unsure. "Why?" asked the shortest one, her voice trembling. "Why would you do this for us?" John smiled gently. "Because freedom is worth everything. And because my daughter deserves a family. I can't promise riches or comfort, but I can promise safety and respect. We can learn from each other. We can survive together." They studied him carefully. They had lived in fear for so long it was difficult to trust anyone. But there was something in John's eyes, a quiet strength, a determination that spoke louder than words. Finally, the tallest woman nodded. "We will go with you," she said. "But we do not serve. We survive together." John felt a rush of relief. "I do not expect servants," he said. "I expect partners and friends. And if you teach Lila what you know, she will grow stronger than either of us." The journey back to the ranch was long. The women rode cautiously, keeping their hands near their weapons, ready for any trouble. John explained the basics of ranch life, caring for the animals, managing water, defending against the desert predators. The women listened carefully, learning quickly. They were not just survivors, they were intelligent, capable, and wise in ways John had never known. When they reached the ranch, Lila ran out to greet them. "Mama!" she cried, wrapping herself around the nearest woman. The women froze for a moment, unused to such open affection, but then smiled gently. John watched, a warm feeling swelling in his chest. This was the beginning. They would need time, patience, and understanding to build trust. But already he could see the bond forming. That night, as the sun set and the sky turned deep purple, the four of them sat together around a small fire. John cooked a simple meal while the women examined the ranch, the animals, and the strange human inventions scattered about. "You have built much," said the woman with copper hair. "This land, it is harsh, yet you survive." "I survived," John said, "but only because I have to. My daughter, she keeps me going. And soon maybe we can all keep each other going." The women nodded, understanding the unspoken words. They had found a safe place, for the first time in many cycles. Over the next days, they began to work together. Lila learned quickly, absorbing lessons from each of the women. Ayla taught her to track animals. Naya showed her how to gather herbs for medicine, and Tali explained how to read the stars and predict weather. John watched with pride as his daughter thrived, surrounded by knowledge, care, and love. Yet challenges arose. The women were proud and independent. Their past experiences made them cautious. Lila struggled to understand their ways at first, and John had to mediate small conflicts with patience and care. But slowly, they learned to function as a family, not perfect, but strong. One evening, as John walked the perimeter of the ranch, he noticed shadows moving beyond the fences. Raiders. They were looking for the women, greedy traders who wanted them back. John's heart raced, but he did not panic. He knew that together they could defend themselves. He returned to the house and quietly explained the situation. The women listened and nodded, understanding the threat. "We fight," Ayla said simply. "We survive together." John felt a surge of gratitude. They were not just helping his daughter. They were helping him protect his home, his life, and their own future. That night, John could not sleep. He stared at the stars, thinking of the life ahead. He had taken a risk, paid a price, and brought strangers into his home. But already he could see the beginnings of something incredible. His daughter would have mothers, yes, but more than that, they would have family. Strong, resilient, and united. As the suns rose, casting golden light across the red plains, John knew one thing. Survival alone was no longer enough. Together, they would thrive. And this small, remote ranch on a distant planet would become something extraordinary. A place where humans and alien warriors could live. Teach and grow as one family. He smiled, hearing Lila's laughter echoing through the desert. Freedom had come not just for the women, but for all of them. And this was only the beginning. The desert sun rose over the horizon, painting the plains in harsh gold. John stood at the edge of the ranch, watching the wind ripple across the red dust. He felt a quiet tension in his chest. The shadows he had seen days before were not gone. They lingered at the edges of the outpost, hungry for what they could not have. He had warned the women, and they had nodded calmly. Together they would face whatever came. Inside the main house, Lila moved quickly between the three women, laughing as Ayla taught her how to handle a small blaster safely, while Naya showed her how to prepare a medicinal poultice from desert herbs. Tali, quiet and thoughtful, demonstrated how to read the stars to anticipate changes in weather. Layla's young face shone with excitement. She had learned more in a week than John could have ever imagined. John stepped inside, taking in the scene. "I never imagined she would learn this quickly," he said, smiling. "You've all done more than I could have hoped for." Ayla, folding her arms, looked at him with a slight smirk. "She is smart, John. Humans can be strong, but they need guidance. She listens, she tries, and she cares. That is why she will survive." John nodded, gratitude filling him. "And it is not just for her. All of us need to learn from each other. We are stronger together." The calm, however, was temporary. As night fell, a distant rumble reached their ears. The raiders had come. John quickly checked his blaster and looked to the women.
"Stay inside with Lila," he said, but they shook their heads. "We fight," Ayla said firmly.
"We protect what is ours." Lila stays, yes, but we do not hide. John's heart raced. He had not fought anyone in years, relying instead on cleverness and endurance to protect his ranch. Now together with these three alien women, they would have to stand. He nodded, trusting them as he had never trusted anyone. The first wave of raiders appeared at the edge of the ranch. Shadows moved swiftly, their weapons glowing faintly in the darkness. John, Ayla, Naya, and Tali moved as one, silently taking positions behind the fence, using the terrain to their advantage. The raiders underestimated them. They had expected fear, submission, easy targets. What they did not expect were human determination and alien skill combined. Ayla struck first, moving like a shadow, her blade slicing through the darkness. Naya followed, using her agility to disable 2 raiders before they could fire. Tali, calm and precise, took aim with her blaster, picking off targets with quiet efficiency. John, relying on instinct and experience, guided their strategy, coordinating their movements like a conductor leading an orchestra. The raiders faltered. They had thought they were strong, but they were not ready for a team so united, so fearless. John's heart pounded as he saw the women protect not just Lila, but each other and him. They were more than warriors, they were family. Hours passed. The night was filled with the clash of metal, blaster fire, and the shouts of raiders. Yet by dawn, the ranch stood untouched and proud. The raiders lay defeated at the edge of the plains, retreating into the desert from which they came. John let out a long breath, his body trembling with adrenaline. He turned to the 3 women, their faces shining with sweat and determination. You are incredible," he said. "I couldn't have done this without you." Ayla smiled faintly, wiping her blade clean. "It is not about doing it alone," she said. "It is about doing it together. This is how families survive. Together." Lila ran into their arms, her small arms hugging each of them tightly. "You protected me," she whispered. "You're my mother's." John felt something inside him shift. He had promised her mothers, but what he had gained was more. Respect, trust, strength, and love. A family forged in fire, survival, and loyalty. The days after the battle were filled with rebuilding. John and the women repaired fences, tended to the animals, and fortified their home. They trained Lila further, teaching her skills she would need to survive in the desert. She learned to track, to defend, and to heal, growing confident with each passing day. The women also shared their culture and knowledge. Ayla taught John how to identify subtle changes in the desert landscape that predicted danger. Naya showed him ancient ways to purify water and grow rare herbs. Tali explained celestial navigation, helping John chart the stars and understand the rhythms of their harsh planet. John realized he had learned more from them in a week than he had in his entire life. One evening, as the sun set, casting long shadows across the plains, John sat with the women and Lila around the fire. He looked at their faces, illuminated by the orange glow, and felt pride and gratitude. "We have come far," he said. "Not just in surviving, but in living. I never thought I could have a family like this." "I was wrong," Ayla, sitting beside him, nodded. "Family is not about blood," she said. "It is about choice. You chose us, and we chose you. That is how strong bonds are made." Naya smiled at Lila, brushing her hair gently. "You will grow strong, little one. You will protect those you love. And you will learn that family is built by courage, respect, and heart." Tali, quiet as always, added softly, "And you, John, have shown that humans are capable of great kindness. You saw what others ignored. That is why we are here. That is why we fight." John felt a lump in his throat. He had given them freedom, yes, but in return, they had given him more than he could have imagined. They had given him trust, loyalty, and the strength to face any threat. Weeks passed. The ranch thrived. Lila blossomed into a confident, curious child, learning quickly from her 3 mothers. John found peace he had not known in years. They hunted together, tended the livestock, and studied the stars. Each day brought challenges, but together, they faced them and grew stronger. Word of their survival spread across the plains. Travelers came to see the human who had united with 3 alien women and raised a child in the desert. They came not out of envy but respect. John and his family became a symbol of unity, courage, and resilience. A human-led family thriving in a harsh universe, proving that survival was not enough. Humanity, when combined with compassion and alliance, could create something extraordinary. One evening, as Lila sat on John's lap, gazing at the stars, she whispered, "Papa, we are a real family, aren't we?" John smiled, looking at Ayla, Naya, and Tali, who were watching quietly, their faces soft in the firelight. "Yes, Lila," he said, "we are. Stronger than any one of us alone. Together." The desert wind blew gently across the plains, carrying the scent of red dust and wild herbs. John felt a deep sense of purpose. He had promised his daughter a family, and he had delivered more than that. He had created a home, a place of safety, learning, and love. And in doing so, he had proved that humans, when guided by heart and courage, could forge bonds that transcended worlds. The stars shone brightly above, and John knew that whatever the universe sent their way, they would meet it together. They were a family, human and alien, bound not by law or tradition, but by respect, loyalty, and love. And in that moment, John understood that the true power of humanity was not in wealth, strength, or technology, but in the ability to see worth in others, to protect the vulnerable, and to build connections that no force could break. The ranch, now alive with laughter, learning, and shared purpose, stood as a testament to that belief. The plains stretched endlessly, but for John, Lila, and the three women, they were no longer a harsh desert. They were home. And for the first time in years, John slept peacefully, knowing that together, they could survive anything, and that in this strange, harsh universe, they had found something rare and beautiful, a real family.